This is what's happening right now in Sudan.
It's a fragile situation.
You cannot have two armies in one country with two different leaders.
Fighting has erupted between the Sudanese army and a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces. The two groups are battling for control of the country. The clashes have come after a failed transition of power from the army to civilians. Plans to integrate the RSF into the army have led to tensions. A doctors group has said that dozens of civilians have been killed in the fighting. Paramilitary group RSF claimed to have taken control of airports in the Sudanese capital Khartoum and the presidential palace. Civilians have been warned to stay indoors. Some fear this fighting could even lead to a wider conflict.
Plus, the US Embassy in Sudan has conducted another shameful nighttime evacuation and left their citizens stranded, while China's embassy has begun evacuating citizens and ensures staff will remain at their posts until that process is complete.
And a quick one on Sudan. Are there plans to evacuate U.S. embassy personnel from there?
So just a couple things a couple things I want to say about that. And do you mean Americans more broadly, or are you talking about both? Okay, so look, the U.S. Embassy in Khartoum's security alert on April 16th stated that due to uncertain security situation in Khartoum and closures of the airport, Americans should have no expectations of a U.S. government coordinated evacuation at this time. We expect that will remain the case. We have been urging American citizens not to travel to Sudan since at least back in October of last year, when the State Department travel advisory was set at a level 4, which means do not travel. That's what a level 4 means. It is imperative that U.S. citizens in Sudan make their own arrangements to stay safe in these difficult circumstances. We advise U.S. citizens to remain sheltered in place and to contact the U.S. Embassy if they need assistance, and that is currently where we are at this time.
Since the escalation of the situation in Sudan, the CCP and government have been very concerned about the security of Chinese personnel and institutions in Sudan. The Chinese embassy in Sudan is adhering to its position, closely monitoring the development and changes of the situation, and will provide full support and assistance to ensure the safety of Chinese citizens and institutions in the local area. When there is a danger that requires evacuation, the embassy will always be at the end. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will also take effective measures to ensure the safety of embassy personnel.
Firstly, Chinese diplomats in Sudan risked danger to open up an evacuation route. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs immediately activated the emergency mechanism for consular protection, closely communicated and coordinated with various ministries, provincial and local governments, as well as Chinese embassies in neighboring countries, and successfully formulated evacuation plan. Secondly, the Chinese Navy acted rapidly upon orders and rushed to rescue. The destroyer Nanning and supply ship Weishan Lake are sighing at high speed towards Port Sudan to pick up Chinese citizens. As of April 27th, more than 1,300 Chinese citizens have safely evacuated from Sudan. China has become the country with the highest number of organized evacuees since the outbreak of internal conflicts in Sudan.
My fellow countrymen, no matter where you are, the great motherland will always be your strongest support. The People's Navy always safeguards the safety and interests of our overseas compatriots. Don't worry anymore, since we're here, everyone is safe. Long live the motherland!
Years did I imagine that as American citizens, my parents would be left to fend for themselves in a war zone.
Muna Dowd describes the harrowing story of her parents, American citizens, trying to make their way out of Sudan. After a 12-hour bus ride from Khartoum to Port Sudan, during which her father was held up at gunpoint by one of the country's warring armies, they found no support for U.S. citizens.
No American presence, no American assistance, no signage anywhere to tell them where to go.
Arriving at the gates of this hotel, they showed their U.S. passports, but received no shelter.
They told her, no, you have to wait. Without providing lodging, assistance, food, water. My father is running low on his medication that he needs for both his heart condition and his blood pressure.
Other travelers have descended upon Sudan's border with Egypt, some finally finding water, but others, including Americans, not so lucky.
The wait time at the border is many days. Children are crying, and they're just laying on the ground. It's a desert.
They're stuck at the border. There's no water. There's no food. The border is essentially a humanitarian crisis, and they're not the only Americans who are facing this issue.
Ahmad and Layla are an American couple living in California. Like Muna, they're deeply frustrated by the lack of U.S. government support in these dangerous and complex conditions, as they've tried to assist their parents escape.
We contacted them on numerous occasions, asking for just bare minimum help. Just let us know if you are going to help us. Please let us know you are going to help us.
U.S. officials say it's more dangerous to carry out a government-led evacuation from the country right now than to have American citizens join the overland caravans.
We're in contact with Americans who have registered with us in one way or another, and very active contact.
But Dowd paints a different picture.
The only communication was to somehow make your way to Port Sudan, because that seemed kind of very vague. And it seems like different people, different Americans are getting different information.
Tonight, the U.S. Navy arriving at the Port of Sudan, helping desperate Americans flee the violence, with the second convoy guarded by American military drones undergoing the treacherous 500-mile trek from Khartoum to the Port of Sudan today. So far, 1,000 Americans have been rescued by the U.S. government. But at the port, chaos and confusion. Evacuees crammed into tight spaces, sleeping on the floor, hoping for temporary visas to gain safe passage to countries like Saudi Arabia.